Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Chasing Collectibles Catchup. I'm Tyler, and with us today we have a friend that hasn't been here in a few years, Jeremy Cascamisi. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, Tyler. It's good to be back and it's good to see a friend.
Yeah, it's been like 3 years, which is wild to me. Um, so how have you been in 3 years? Summarize everything that you've been up to.
It went by too fast, I would say. It doesn't feel like 3 years because,
Yeah,
to me it feels like a blink.
right.
That's what life feels like these days. Yeah, lots of growth and lots of perfecting, what I'm passionate about and doing it with friends and having a good time.
Nice. That's always the goal, right?
Yeah.
Um, so last time you were here, we kind of focused on mainly like Spider-Man film stuff. We also talked a little bit about TikTok because you kind of went semi, I guess, viral in the Spider-Man cosplay community for how awesome your Spider-Man cosplay was and is. So that was pretty cool. But today we're going to focus mainly on like the film side of things. So I guess what first got you into filmmaking?
Oh, um, well, I mean, it's a hard thing to say anything got me into it because I think I was always just doing it, and that took me a while to like come to that realization. But as you'll see, the film I'm working on now kind of like echoes this upbringing, but I was always just like grabbing any camera that my parents owned and kind of started making movies at like a very young age. I think if I was to say anything inspired me, it would be a teacher that I had in I was in fourth or fifth grade, and I think she was just, she loved stories, and I think her love of stories, came out in the assignments that she would give the class, and then it would, kind of ask us to create worlds and create characters. And I remember one of my earliest memories of like writing stories was, from school. And I think a few of my friends also like were super into it during that time. And that's who I eventually started making like small YouTube videos with and stuff like that. So it's not like oh, I saw Star Wars or whatever. Even
Right.
though Star Wars, huge inspiration, I think it was
Yeah.
more, yeah, my teacher. I think now that you ask and I think about it, like fifth grade teacher, I think really brought the love out of stories in general. And then filmmaking was a path that I found along my way of pursuing good stories.
Right. That's awesome. And I mean, I do some writing, and I feel similar that I had a teacher who was like, "Hey, you should," basically like gave me an option to write. We had an assignment that was like, "Oh, every week you got to read X amount," and I was like, "Well, I have a story idea. Can I write instead of read?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, do that." And looking back, that writing was horrible, but like it kind of gets you started. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
So then. I was kind of like doing a little bit of research, Googling stuff and all that. It must be cool, I guess, like now being in film school, you think about the cameras that you're probably using when you were in middle school, high school. We're about the same age, so I know probably what you had at your disposal and to like use such, I guess, high tech stuff now. That must be a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, I mean, so one thing I'll say is you'd be surprised at how many requests you get for the look that we grew up with to be kind of brought back. I think there's this resurgence of nostalgia for the era we grew up in.
Yeah.
So, I'm constantly working with both. Like, somebody might request the 6K camera, and then other people would be like, "Do you have a cool Pix?" And you're like, "I can get one." So it's like,
Right.
a huge range, and you're still I think what I've learned the most is that every camera has like these different qualities. I mean,
Yeah.
and people have these connections to those different qualities. Whatever images are produced from them, especially ones from our past, kind of have a nostalgic association, and people, relate feelings to those pictures, like those digital cameras from
Yeah.
2004 that have like
Exactly.
the date in the corner, like
Yeah.
people have emotional connections to them now. So you find ways and, you know, to bring them back and to service whatever project you're doing. But I will say the tech's getting crazy. The tech
Yeah.
is getting overwhelmingly crazy out there. I mean, we have 12K cameras, and it's just like
Wild.
it's yeah, it's getting expensive and it's getting crazy, but there's always a love for what came before.
I did see, and I haven't seen this movie yet, but I saw like behind the scenes of was like I think 28 years later, and they had this like rig where they had a bunch of iPhones set up for
Yeah.
shooting. Like it was like hundreds or does I don't know how many. It looked like a ton of them, but all lined up to record stuff. I thought that was pretty neat to see.
Yeah, I mean, so it's one thing that I'm constantly like kind of retaining is like what other movies are doing out there because there's a lot of scrappy filmmaking happening, which is, encouragement for, people like me because it's like I don't have, Hollywood money or whatever. So it's nice to see these high budgets use a camera like the FX3, like on the Creator, or, iPhones, which everybody has in their pocket. Obviously, there's some, things there where they're attaching $20,000 lenses to an
Sure, yeah,
iPhone, but still, I think the idea to like try it and, see what they're doing. One recent thing that I was super excited about is learning that um, on F1, the Formula One movie that just came out, they rehoused the FX3 sensor, which is a pretty consumer-friendly camera. It's about this big that Sony makes. And they used the sensor from that camera on the scenes where it like flips back to the road and flips
oh,
back to
nice,
Brad Pitt's face.
yeah,
And it's cool to like hear about Hollywood movies using, budget-friendly tech that is at my disposal.
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it's interesting because like, we could get, we don't have to go on this whole rabbit hole, but it's like there's some recent movies that you look at that movie and some of the VFX, and you look at like something from 20 years ago, like why does the thing from 20 years ago look better than what's being made now? So I guess like you don't necessarily need, like you're saying, the big budget stuff to make something really cool.
No, I think, and I also do think like this is a conversation I have with the creatives around me as well, and I'm friends with VFX artists. And again, what you should be looking at it as is a tool, and that's what it used to be looked at as, not a replacement.
Right.
Where it's like VFX can, bring an added element to something that we do for real. And that's what, my VFX artists or team always recommend to me. It's like we shoot as much in camera as we can so that, you're always like showing an audience that it is real to a degree. If you want to enhance something with VFX, that's the way to go. But also fully 3D worlds have changed as well. It's a conversation all the time, but I think the short answer is don't be lazy
Yeah.
in it. It's
Sure.
like if you have the volume at your disposal, there's still work that needs to be put in to make the volume look great. And we've seen great examples of the volume put to good use. And then there's not so good ones. And I think it's more, you know, half-assing and
Yeah.
relying too much on the tech that really kind of ruins the illusion. Whereas like you can't even tell that they've used it in some movies that you're just involved in. You're just like engrossed
Yeah.
by whatever images you see. But it is an interesting topic, that
Yeah.
one,
It
because
is
that's
kind of
an industry
obviously.
as well.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned like creatives have been around and all. So I know you're in film school. The most exposure I had to that, I went to college and like I was interested in film, so I did like a film 101 class, and that was about it. But when I went to school for teaching, and so like with that, you have placements in schools, and then you do an internship and all that. So with something creative like filmmaking, like what is that for someone who's had no exposure to that? Is it a lot of it is like portfolio based? Do you get a lot of like hands-on experience with things? What is that like going to film school?
Um, so film school in and of itself it has been a blessing, I think. But you have to have the right attitude. I think in anything you go to pursue, you have to have the right attitude about it. I don't think any schooling is like going to hand anybody anything. And
Hmm.
I've gone to schools where people can probably, talk bad about a certain program. But I've also heard everybody who goes to a different program talk bad about that program.
Right.
So what
You
I've
get the
walked away,
envy.
yeah, what I've walked away with is more like it's an attitude and I'm going to do this no matter what that you have to have because the program is there. Tools are at your disposal, but it doesn't really matter unless you have the the oomph to actually put something together, make something work with your professors, work with your classmates. But for me, yeah, it has been nice. I'm working at the college that I went to because I was a good student and my professor liked my work ethic, and now he's my colleague. So
That's got to
I
be cool.
think that's yeah, it's really awesome. He's a great guy and one of my favorite, professors that I've ever had. Um, so yeah, it's about that. And I went to a community college, and there's a ton of like good, lots of money schools in New York City, and um, they are beneficial in their own right, but I do think it's about the individual and what they
Right.
do with that education and their resources. And I've done my fair share of complaining, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you have a lot of work to do
Right.
to really get there. So that's what it is. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. And what you put in is what you get out of it. So.
Absolutely.
And even then, I imagine. I mean, I've got an intern now, and I tell him, which makes me feel old sometimes. But I'm like, there's only so much you can learn, like shadowing somebody. You eventually, like when you do it, you learn some things along the way. Like there were some things I didn't know until I was a teacher that you just got to do. I'm sure there's some
Yep.
parallels, when you're with filmmaking. I'm sure.
hmm it's a lot of hands-on. A lot of what I tell, because I mean I have college kids now that are kind of I'm not in charge of, but I'm the teacher's assistant and the lab technician, so I still get a lot of questions from students. And a lot of what I tell them is like, look, if I went somewhere and I didn't know something, I would write that word down or phrase down, and I would be on YouTube the next day watching 6 videos about what the heck that thing is that I didn't know about. And that's my best advice is that we have the information at our disposal. And a lot of like what this industry is like there is kind of a pace that goes along with it. And if you can't keep up, you won't get more work. So it's up to you to not be upset about not knowing a term and be like, oh, well, they were using terms that they were trying to confuse me. And it's like, yeah, but they're also like seeing if you got the stuff. And
Right. Yeah.
and the difference is if you're a person who's going to complain and quit, then that's the end of it. If you're a person who's like, I didn't know that, I know they're testing me, I'm going to learn that, prove it to them the next day. And then it's just like, you get further by you're benefiting yourself. So that's advice I give is like, if you don't know something, the internet is at your disposal. Everything's out there. Literally look up whatever that word is slash film term and then
Yeah.
just like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you know, see what it is. Um, and it makes it fun. It makes it fun. There's a lot of information out there that are, you know, kind of out there in a fun way to kind of receive. It's not, you don't have to read textbooks. Like YouTube videos are like insanely well edited now and informational. So,
I think that's awesome advice. Now, before we came on, we were talking about like what we've done over the summer and all that, and you mentioned you've been doing a lot of pre-production on your project. And I feel like this question I'm about to ask you can be both an easy question and also if you're making something, you care a lot about it, the elevator pitch can be also hard. So, what is your project about? What's your film? What are you doing?
absolutely. So, my film is about two brothers, Alfie and Orion Webb, and they are 13 and 10 years old. They're at a point in their relationship where they're bickering a lot, fighting with each other. And one night, while this happens, Alfie, the older brother, during a storm gets struck by a bolt of lightning that kind of goes up through his video game system, and he receives it through his controller. He wakes up the next day with the powers of his favorite video game character called Battle Boy, and he has no control over these abilities because the video game is his source of power. So what I did was I kind of constructed a story where he's a superhero, but he can't do anything with his powers unless he works together with his little brother. And
Oh, that's really
that's
that's,
sort
that's
of that's sort of the kind of pitch is like the next day he's trying to survive a day at school while enemies from this video game are entering the real world, and they have to kind of figure out how to work together as a team to stop that threat from, causing harm to them and each other. So it's about like brothers and sibling relationships and finding out how to grow past your differences in order to work together and that, you're stronger together.
yeah,
So that's sort of the pitch of it.
that's awesome. That sounds really cool. Um, Yeah, no, that's you said like very briefly what it was about over Messenger the other day, but like this was like that's awesome. I hear that. I'm like, I want to see that now. Like I literally want to see it. Um it reminds me of like growing up with like I have an older sister and like playing like co-op games where you have to like cooperate, those puzzle games and all that. So
Yeah.
that's so cool. Do you have a similar, I guess, inspiration in terms of like growing up playing video games and
Absolutely. I think that's what I touched on earlier is that this film is very much like my childhood with my younger brother, and inspired by that relationship and how often, we bickered and how often I would complain to my mom about him or whatever.
right.
But then it's like we shared a bedroom until I was like 15,
Mhm.
and video games were huge. Like we went through a variety of systems, like from the PlayStation 1, or I guess from the N64 to like the PS4. It was just like kind of
Yeah, like
years
each
of
generation and
yeah, of gaming with this guy. So, and there was obviously like, nights where you just like shut it off, like pissed off or
right,
whatever, like,
exactly.
um, but then like, those are the fondest memories as
Right.
well. So that's sort of what I'm sourcing from.
Is there a particular, when you're thinking of like inspiration for this game, is there a game or two that comes to mind that like if you were like trying to envision it?
Yeah, so it's a side-scrolling beat 'em up,
Okay,
about
nice.
16-bit. I grew up, so I was a bit too old to play things like Streets of Rage or whatever, but I remember on the Game Boy, I had the 2007 Ninja Turtles game for the
Oh,
Game
nice.
Boy was a side-scrolling beat 'em up. So that's one of my biggest references for the game itself because I love being able to like go grab a trash can and throw it at an
Yeah,
enemy, or like if there was a pipe on the ground, you could pick it up. And I don't know, it was an awesome game, and I sort of liked the progression of it, where it was different than like a 2D platformer, and it was more like you had like a vertical and horizontal kind of directional path. It was
right.
neat. So I think the TMNT from 2007 on the Game Boy
That's
would
cool.
be a
Yeah.
huge huge inspiration.
Yeah. Well, so going back to when we were talking before the show, uh you mentioned I think the script is at what, 34 pages? You said is that current? Was that 34 pages?
After today, it's at 36 because I
Okay.
did a little bit.
Okay, nice, nice. So I was doing some kind of research. I was because I'm used to like I do, fiction writing, and that's very much is like, all right, you write it and it's like you write this and then you give it to the reader and they read it. Um, but like a script for a movie is a lot different. And so I looked up, movie script. I found the script for like the movie Saturday Night, came out a year or two ago. I don't know if you've seen that
Mm,
one. I thought it was pretty good. But it's interesting how like the script itself, when you think of the whole movie, it's kind of wild because like you're describing the dialogue and setting the scene, but then when you finish the script and then you turn that into a movie, there's so many other people you're working with. It's like, okay, someone's got to design the set, someone's got to, have costumes, you've got actors who are interpreting it, then you're directing and all that. So I guess what is that like just as a film creator, to make this script and then have to transform it into all those other factors.
Um, it's I don't want to say stressful, even though it is. It seems like I'm talking negatively about it, because it is fun.
Mm.
Um, but it is a lot of talking. It's a lot of communication. I think that's the biggest thing when doing something like this is that you have to communicate every single thing so that everybody is working on the thing that you need them to be working on. And, you're working on everything you need to be working on. So it's a lot of communication. Every day is like 10 to 12 conversations with various
Right.
different people. Um, so yeah, I mean, writing the script is the fun part. And I think you get to kind of write whatever you want, and then money gets involved, and then people get involved, and then they tell you what can and can't happen. And then there's parts where you're like, okay, well, we'll shift and pivot. So it's a constant evolution, I would say, is that it's like even the movie I'm imagining like today is not going to be the movie that I like shoot in a few weeks.
Right.
And that is always like a thing that you have to get over, where it's like whatever you imagine, it's going to be slightly different, but at the end of the day, it's still the thing you wanted to make.
Right.
Um, so it's a lot of communication, and yeah, like you said, a lot of other voices get involved, but I think that's such a great thing. A lot of
Yeah.
things or what I've been saying to a lot of my fellow creatives so far, and why I've been taking like into account personally is a lot of early filmmakers will be so adamant on it being their way or not. But I've been so in love with like audience's opinion lately, just because it's like they're who like it's for at the end of the day. Like, yes, it's
Right.
for me to tell a story and to heal and whatever, but at the end of the day, their enjoyment is what makes it work. It's like
Yeah.
it's because it's two sides working together. Like if a movie plays to an empty room,
Yeah.
I mean,
This is
yes, you made a movie, but like if nobody's watching it, like at that point it has to become like I'm listening to these people, I'm getting their ideas, I'm getting their opinions because they are the audience as well. It's like, so it evolves in that way. My professor gave great notes. I have it right here on my wall. And it's up to you to decide whose opinion, really
right.
matters to you and stuff like that. And it's like there's certain people that you let read it and you're like, oh, that's perfect, that's brilliant, that's a good idea. I'm not saying you have to share with everybody, and it's like even the haters have to be serviced or whatever.
Yeah.
But if it's a person you cherish and a person you respect and they have great ideas, like you shouldn't be so closed off to those. So constant communication and constant being a degree separate from your work after it's done so that you can take this feedback and ideas with an open mind has been a lot of what it is.
What is I mean, when you make anything creative, whether it's a movie or book or comic or whatever, I mean, it does make yourself a little vulnerable, right? You got to be willing to say, "Hey, here's this idea. What do you think?" And then someone might be like,
Yeah.
"Well, you should do X," and you gotta be like, "Okay," like you can't just be like, "Well, I'm not listening."
Yeah.
You gotta listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would think that like It's there are two sides of it because I think absolutely saying okay when it is necessary, but I do think the other side of it is an artistic instinct that there are certain things that you do have to just be like, I disagree. I have to go with my gut on this one. And
Right.
again, those are more, rare or whatever, but there are instances where you just kind of have to that's what directing is. Like go like you can't say everything is good.
Right.
Um,
You gotta pick and choose your battles, but if you're like,
it
this
can,
is the thing I
yep.
think that really needs, like, I know, like, this is the vision. I think this is gonna work.
Hmm.
You gotta go with it.
Absolutely.
So then you mentioned is production in a couple weeks then? Are you that close to filming this or
Yep. We head on up to New Hampshire at the end of the month. I'm headed up the 28th. Our first shoot day is the 29th. So yeah, that's like 3 weeks from now.
wow, that's cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. How long is your window of how long you anticipate filming?
So it's a split shoot. It involves, a cast of children.
Right.
So out working hours are different, plus school is
Right.
in
I was thinking the
session.
same thing in the back of my head. What's that? What is that like?
Yeah, it's been interesting to learn, I would say. But yeah, so we're just doing Labor Day weekend, and then we won't pick up again until September, and then we won't pick up again until October. Um, which is absolutely fine with me because it breaks the script down into three digestible. Like I don't have to like if I had to focus on the entire movie right now, I would probably have a meltdown. But I kind of only have to focus on like what needs to get done in 3 weeks, and then I have 3 more weeks to figure out what needs to get done in September, and then 3 more weeks to figure out what gets done in October. And I think that's helping me just organize things in my head a little bit. I don't know how people do like 85-day shoots and
Mhm.
it's a 3 hour film.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet, one day, but yeah, slow and steady.
Are you filming this in like sequential, like do the three parts happen to be in, like part A, B, and C, or is it like you're filming C, A, and B in terms of like, is this chronological order you're filming it, or is it
Almost. So the stuff in New Hampshire is the opening of the film, but it's also the third act of the film.
okay?
So we're shooting all of A, parts of C this upcoming shoot.
Okay.
And then but it is kind of sequential because September would be B and
Okay.
then October would be the rest of C.
Gotcha.
Um, but we're filming at the character's house in New Hampshire, so we kind of have to get every scene that involves the house in that weekend because we don't want to have to travel back at any point to
Yeah.
like um, so yeah.
How long do you anticipate the film being?
I mean, if a minute is a page or a page is a minute, probably 35 minutes. I'm going to do my best in the cut to shave it down to half an hour,
Okay.
maybe under that. Um, but yeah, I'm anticipating it was always the idea was always a pilot in my head, like for a 6-part miniseries or whatever. So hopefully I get to keep the longer runtime and have it as a full pilot, but I have been advised that like certain festivals will not accept a film over 25 minutes or whatever. But I think there are ways that I can like have a smaller cut and have the full cut. But yeah, hopefully 30 to 35 minutes is my desired outcome.
Right. That's cool. And I have no idea like how much does one page translate to. I can do math. If I knew it was one, I could do one times 30, 39 or whatever. So I have no idea how that translates. So that's cool to know.
Yeah.
Um, so then you do post production afterwards, and then when would you anticipate? You mentioned like festivals. This is like I guess a 2026 kind of goal would be have festivals next year.
Yes. So what happens this year is I actually have to present a cut in my class at the end of the semester. So December there will be the rough cut.
Okay, cool.
Um, but we should wrap shooting before the year is done. And then yeah, lots of post-production. There's some VFX in there. It'll go off to probably be properly sound designed,
Nice.
hopefully by someone who can do it. And um, properly scored by my buddy and all that good stuff. So I definitely want it to be in a package that is like my most deliverable so far, where it's like, the neatest bow on top that I can go out there and be proud of. Because it is my thesis film for school. So it's kind of my showcase of my 4 years of college to be like, I walked away from college. I have this. Can I do anything with
Yeah. So is
it?
this then your biggest like in terms of like project in terms of like the time length and everything like that?
Absolutely. I've never had something like this with so many moving parts. I mean, part of the script has a scene with probably 20 actors in it, and it's a
Nice.
dodgeball action sequence. So it's
Oh
like,
wow.
there's there's lots of things that I put in here that, I want to see done, but I always was doing films with like three characters, four characters. So to do something like this is they're not, I mean, they are background, but I'll have to, still
A lot of
manage and
like
run a set.
choreography, I'm sure, and direction and
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. So
Now, would there be a way, if not, I guess we'll have to talk individually, would there be a way when it's done to, I know if it'll be at festivals, but is there a way to see it, you think,
yeah,
general public or
hopefully, yeah, I'll have a link. I would, I already have to send it to a few people when I have a cut. We did some shopping. We went up 2 or 3 weeks ago to New Hampshire to start, set designing,
Mhm.
and I had a lot of furniture to buy. Um, and we bought bunk beds from these people,
Oh,
and
sweet.
even the lady was like, "Send me a link. I want to see our bunk beds in the movie." And I was like, "Okay."
Nice.
So yeah, there will definitely be just yeah, reach out. If you see me start promoting like a final cut, just be like,
Yeah.
"Yo, can I see
I
it?"
definitely
And
asked. I mean, I'm being 100% genuine when you said the idea. I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. Like I'm not like, I don't turn around and do this to like everybody that talks about a movie. Like I do want to see it. So
absolutely,
nice. Um, well, I've got a couple of just miscellaneous questions before we end up wrapping up. Um,
absolutely.
so I know you're a big Spider-Man fan. We did coordinate on shirts a little bit. At one point, I was like, we should coordinate on the suits, and I was just like, you know what? No, I'm good. I've got a suit. Mine's not as nice as yours, but I was like, I think the t-shirts are fine.
Yeah,
But speaking of suits, what are your thoughts on the latest Spider-Man suit that we saw, like behind the scenes pictures of?
man, I'm giddy.
Yeah.
I am absolutely in love with everything that I've seen. I haven't had, I mean, so for Tom Holland specifically, I've had I never like was like that's my Spider-Man. And I don't think I am at this point. I think, in 2017 I was still burnt a little bit on the Andrew Garfield stuff
Right.
because he was, my favorite. Um, I still, enjoyed his movies when I watched them, but I hadn't had like this like childlike that's Spider-Man
Yeah.
in so long. And these like set photos, the suit reveal, everything about it has had me like as giddy as I was when I was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like the whole ordeal, the wire work,
Mhm.
something about it is just like, scratching the itch. And I have no complaints
Yeah.
about that suit. I think the incorporation of some of the greatest stuff from the 2002 suit being in there, I'm just like awesome. Like that's great.
Yeah,
So,
well, I had similar feelings about to you because I've always had like my order's been like it depends on the day, but like, either Toby or Andrew, and then after like I haven't disliked it, but I've always been like I don't love that like he's always kind of relied on other heroes and
mhm.
at the end of the last movie, people are like, oh, he's finally Spider-Man. He's Spider like well, after three movies, is he? But like this suit is cool. And he seems
Yeah.
Tom seems to be having like fun. I don't know. He seems like very energetic with it, so I'm optimistic. It looks really cool though.
Absolutely. I think there's definitely an energy on set. I'm excited for Destin. I'm excited to see, a fresh take on the character. Because again,
Mhm.
like um, you always have like I do enjoy the fact that the directors for these three Spider-Men haven't changed like
Mhm.
for their respective like trilogies. Like
Yeah,
Raimi did all of Tobey's, Mark Webb did Andrew's, and John Watts did the first three of Tom's. So it feels like a new era, and I hope,
yeah,
it's solid enough that we get to see three Destin,
yeah.
Spider-Man movies. But yeah, super. I love everything I'm seeing so far. I'm excited. I'm excited. It might, I'm ignoring some of the story reports because, who
Yeah,
knows what that is,
right.
but everything I'm seeing visually, I'm a fan of.
I have heard, not to get too much in the weeds. I've heard like, oh, the Hulk might be appearing. I'm like, can we not? I'm like, because like, can we just
Yeah,
get a Spider-Man? I mean, it might be great. I don't want to judge anything, but can
absolutely.
we please just Spider-Man can create his own movie? He doesn't need guest appearances. I mean, um, the Punisher, I mean, started in Spider-Man, so I mean, I'm okay with that.
I am too. Yeah.
Well. we'll see. And speaking of, I guess the Marvel movies, do you have any thoughts on like? I feel like I know the past few years have been a little shaky, but like some of the other, I've liked some of the more recent movies, but it's interesting how like this time period right now is like with box office numbers, it's almost as if a movie doesn't make $1 billion, people are like, oh, it flopped.
Mm,
But I don't like. I liked Thunderbolts.
yeah.
I liked Fantastic Four. I liked Superman.
Hmm.
But it's this weird thing, and maybe I'm too online sometimes, but I don't know. It's like weird where they judge a movie's success purely based on box office. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you
I
enjoy
think
those
I
latest
enjoyed all
ones?
three.
Yeah,
I enjoyed all three. I am happy that there wasn't a movie, a comic book movie in the theater this year that I either didn't want to go see. Well, I won't say that. I didn't see Captain America. That's my fault. But
yeah.
I,
It was
yeah, let me
decent.
re,
It was if I
yeah,
had to rank the three ones, I'd put it the three Marvel movies. I'd probably put it at the bottom, but not to say it
yeah.
was bad, but it was yeah,
Um, yeah, so I think what it is, and I've had conversations about this as well, is that it's because the budgets are way too bloated. Like I think like it's down to that. I think box office, what's considered a success is its ability to make back its budget and
a
then
little bit.
some.
Yeah,
Like Sinners could sit at 400 million and be considered a box office hit because it was cheaper to make. Marvel is making $300 million movies
yeah,
for movies that don't look like $300 million. And then that's when it's like the ratio's off. So it's
yeah.
like they would technically have to make 700 million to like, actually be a profit or whatever
Right.
it is. Um, I will also say, to me, the conversation hasn't just been about making good movies, it's been about audience trust. And I don't think there is that right now with these
Yeah,
films, sadly. I think we've gone to the theater more often than not and walked away a bit bummed
yeah,
at what we've seen. Because it was still like 2 years ago, like 2023, people were still kind of trying to show up to these things. I think that year specifically is the nail in the coffin for this era. I
yeah.
mean, if it like 2023 was like Quantumania, The Flash, Aquaman 2, like it was just like it was a generational run of
Yeah, yeah.
horrible comic book films. Um,
What was
so
something funny about before we move on from Quantum Mania? I went to a showing in Charlotte that had the CEO of AMC went to this, and he like did this whole speech in the beginning talking about the stock and all these things. But then he was like, "And now we're about to see Marvel at its finest." And then we watched the movie. I'm like, "Ooh, that no, sir, that was not Marvel at
yeah.
its finest." You know?
It's it's a yeah, so I think that's a huge part of the discussion is that like the audience trust for fans of these
Yeah,
movies just isn't there. So I hope the kind of pattern that they're on where it's like, oh, we're focusing on story again consists. Um, but I don't have huge faith in Doomsday and,
yeah.
and stuff
I
like
don't.
that.
Again, my one of my good friends who's been on here before, we had this inside joke that like I don't know, they just stuffed so many cameos in some of these movies, and they want to like we've always been like they should just do a scene called the auditorium scene where they open a door and they walk into this room and they're like, oh my gosh, and just every character sitting in an auditorium waiting and like, oh, we got all these cameos in because it just I don't know, it's too much, and we need
It
the
is.
story's got to be first, and then you could have
Hmm.
these other things, but story first. So
Absolutely. I'm interested if the Russos still have it, but it's tougher to me because people are like, "Oh, but the Russos are doing it." I'm like, "Well, they kind of built up like towards Endgame. Like I feel
yeah,
like their Winter Soldier, Civil War, like Civil
yeah,
War, Infinity War, and Endgame feel like,
yeah, part of
one
a
story
cohesive.
almost. Um, so it is like they're coming in to put a Band-Aid on what was an entire like 15 movies. I don't know
Yeah,
would be the same as them almost like kind of frontlining two
yeah.
phases of the MCU. Um, So who knows?
Yeah,
I'm skeptical, but
it
I'll
is
go see it
unfortunate.
because that's what I
Yeah,
do.
I mean, I'm gonna see it. They got us at least.
Yep.
It is just unfortunate that like after so many years of the fans kind of being let down, like I do feel like the last couple Marvel movies, Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, they were good. I even got
Hmm.
like teary-eyed during Thunderbolts toward the end. I was like, wow, this is like
Absolutely,
we're
man.
tackling some heavy stuff in this one. Um, but it just I asked my students a couple days ago, I was like, oh no, it was one day I was like, anyone see Fantastic Four? And like four people raised their hands. I'm like, geez, come on,
Yeah.
guys,
And it
but
used to be a thing. Like when I was in high school at that age, I
everybody
remember
went.
like everybody went and you if you didn't see it, you would have to avoid spoilers the entire
Yes,
day. Like that's what it was like. So it is interesting. That's what I tell people as well, is that the generation after us, aren't exactly they didn't grow up with the prime. They didn't grow up with like, what these movies once were. They may have caught the end of Endgame or whatever, but consistently since it's been almost like a joke. And
right,
it's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
um,
Uh, it's
but
just it's a weird time. I don't know, and even
yeah.
some we could go deeper into this because I worry sometimes like this is a whole another rabbit hole, but like our attention spans, with some of my students who are high school
Mm,
age, with like, do they want to sit down and watch a movie? Some of them,
mm,
do they want to can they sit there and digest a
yeah.
movie at times? But that's a whole nother thing. Um, I do want to ask also, this is research. I was trying to see like, what you're up to and ask informative questions. I saw something on TikTok about the Marauders. What is that about? Can you say much about that? You did post about it, so I feel safe asking about it.
Yeah.
But what's
Um,
going on with that?
well, my friends, and specifically my friend Leah, uh, is doing a basically cinematic trailer for this fan fiction and said that me and a few other of our friends look exactly like the fan art and that we should play these characters in the trailer. And I started reading the fan fiction a little bit just to, get into it, and it's
Yeah,
been a lot of fun. I like the world of Harry Potter, and it's fun to live in the headspace of characters that were mentioned in the books. They just didn't have backstory. So it's fun to kind of like explore that backstory. Um, but yeah, we went to Scotland and we went to London and
that's
we
why. That's
shot some
awesome.
stuff for it. Yeah. Um, and hopefully it's going to have cool Harry Potter VFX and be released. There's a ton of filming left to do on it, but luckily for me, there's no dialogue. It's just like running around in
You
robes
just
and whatnot.
vibes. Get to.
Yep.
That's cool.
Um, but yeah, it'll be really cool. It's almost like um growing up I used to see like fake trailers on Facebook or
Oh my
whatnot, but
gosh,
it
yes.
so
Yep.
we're like doing that. It's like, a whole gotcha to the
Yeah,
community.
that's awesome. That's really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And last time we talked 3 years ago, you mentioned that you also like collecting vinyls. Is
Mm,
there an era of music that you enjoy? I'm a big like classic rock person. I'm huge into Beatles and Bob Dylan
yep.
and Springsteen and things like that. Who's like, what's your era that you usually, or is it just kind of all over the place? Or
It is a bit all over the place, I will admit. But I mean, lately I've been right up that alley. I think especially so the Marauders takes place in the 1970s. So I was, in that headspace. I was kind of, living in that era. So I was a lot of Bob Dylan, a lot of David Bowie, lots of George Harrison, and Paul McCartney, like all of them, like were just in the rotation, and they still come up, like Neil Young. Been listening to
actually, I
Neil
just I
Young.
just saw him in concert like 3 days ago, which is pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
it was awesome. He was still, I mean, he's 79 now, but I mean,
yeah.
he played for like 2 hours and did like two encores. It was
Good
sick. I loved it.
gracious.
Yeah,
2 hours.
he did.
Wow, I still got it.
He ended with Rockin' in the Free World, which was really cool. But then he did all like a bunch of classics, bunch of deep cuts. I was just like in heaven. It was great.
Dude, that's wicked. He was in South Carolina?
He was in Charlotte. So I
Okay.
mean, that's not, this is
You
like
just
40 minutes away from me.
straight,
So,
yeah, drove
but
up.
it was great. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm seeing Paul in Atlanta in November, but that was an absurd amount that I'm not, it's crazy. The
I can
tickets,
imagine. I can imagine.
Ticketmaster does their dynamic pricing now.
I know. They're a horrible service, man.
Yeah,
Horrible, horrible
I
service.
went in with the budget and I was like, well, I'll do two tickets, one for me, one for my wife, and I ended up paying double what I wanted to, but enjoy.
You're gonna it's a once in a lifetime thing at this
Right,
point, so
exactly. I think to myself, well, he's such and such years old. I can only see this, so many more
yep,
times. I gotta do it.
absolutely.
So
Good to know though. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I've been at the moment. I've also been listening to a band called Panchico, which Spotify just recommended to me, and
Okay.
I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with finding out who they were. Apparently, it was a band in the 2000s that never released any music until somebody found like their demo at like a thrift shop, listened
Huh.
to it, and was like, "This is incredible. This is 20 years later."
That's
They
pretty
put
cool.
it they put it on like 4chan or something, and then
Hmm.
people hunted down the original singers of this band, and now they're back making music. So
That's
it's
really
like,
unique. Huh.
yeah, so I was like, that's a cool story, and they make great music. They have this album from the demo album was released. It's called Death Metal,
So
and
is it heavy metal or is it
it's not death metal, but like that's just the name of the album, but it's really sick. It is rock. Um,
okay.
but yeah, great
Nice.
time. But
I might have to listen to that. That sounds really cool. I have to let you know what I think of it.
absolutely.
Now, just one more question. I know you're based out of New York now, but I know you're originally from North Carolina. Not Charlotte. Are you more Eastern side? I can't remember
Yep.
okay.
More
Do
east near the
you?
beach.
I know something that you can get in North Carolina that you can't get in New York, which is cheer wine.
I can't
Do
get cheer
you?
wine. I can't get cookout,
No.
period.
Do
I
you
can't
find
get
yourself missing that much? I mean, I know New York
absolutely.
has great food, but like you can't
Yeah.
get some of that.
There are great options here and great varieties, but there's something so comforting about like a Bojangles meal
Yes.
or
Get a
any
Bover
and
enough there.
exactly. Like it's the first stop when I'm either at a cookout or a Bojangles when I'm driving south
Yeah.
to go home because absolutely I miss that stuff. Um, but I will say, having been away from it, I can only do it so many amounts of times when I'm back. There's a point where I'm like,
This is
I
enough.
can't do this food every day because I used to
Right.
like cookout used to be my dinner
Mhm. Yeah.
every single night. And like now I go, I'll have it like twice. I'll get a cookout tray and but after that I'm like, yeah, I can't really eat like that
Well,
anymore.
I am getting like I don't know. Maybe this is age. I'll eat certain foods. I'm like, oh, I can't eat this like I used to. Now I'm in my upper 20s, and I'm like, oh man, this is, and this is only 20s. Like, oh my, can you
I
imagine
know.
30s and 40s? I used to be able to eat a lot more. Now I'm like, I guess I gotta like metabolism isn't as good. I have to actually work out more to like stabilize. And
Yeah.
we did have a, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was like, good old days.
Yeah, exactly. There is a place nearby. We've got someone moved from Brooklyn and they've got a great pizza that I love
Ooh.
getting. We've got a bagel place from people from, but it's so funny seeing how different it is. We went to New York a couple years ago, and like when you were here at the bagel place in the South, you can be like, can I get, you cannot, we went to bagel place, you got to know, you cannot just be, they're like, all right, what do you want?
You because you're taking up space. It's like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
time and space here. It's quite interesting.
yeah, it's
Um,
very culturally different.
what I my way around that is just letting people go ahead of me. Like if I
Yeah,
need time to think, there's not a line. I'm not in a rush to get to the front of the line if I have a decision to make. If
yeah,
I have a decision to make, I'm
you're
like,
not,
go ahead. I'm like, I'm
yeah.
still thinking. Yeah. So
So you just cannot, whether it's, I mean, I did an internship in DC and like you just, any city, you can't do that Southern, like, oh, you go ahead. Like, no, you gotta go. And it's not being rude. It's just the
yeah,
pace.
no, absolutely. Um, but I do the convenience of it is nice sometimes.
Right.
It is different. I mean, just in New Hampshire when I was visiting, same thing, small towns and everybody's
Yeah,
friendly and whatnot. And um, but yeah.
that's awesome. Well, I'm glad we got to touch base again. It is wild that it's. I said to you when I first reached out, like it's crazy. It's been 3 years, and time flies. I am really excited about your movie, and I hope everything goes well. I'm sure there's going to be tons of challenges and stress, but it's a fun stress. I'm sure, and I'm confident that it's going to come out awesome. I watched some of your B-roll. I watched the I'm drawing. It was the 18-month goodbye. I
Oh,
watched. Is that the name
thanks.
of it? I watched that. I thought that was really well done, and I'm confident that your movie's going to be awesome, man.
Well, thank you so much, Tyler. It's awesome to speak with you again and, stay in touch. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you again. Thanks for coming on, and we'll be looking for that movie relatively soon.
Sweet.
All
Thank you guys.
right. Bye.
Yay! Come